Let's add our first item. Items are a fantastic optional feature in FreshAiR. The idea here is that your FreshAiR user has an inventory view on their FreshAiR app when they're playing your reality. You can give items to a user, and you can take items away. You can also check whether a user has items or not, and interactively present to them different content or pathing options in their FreshAiR reality. That has to do with conditions, which we'll get to in a subsequent tutorial. But for now, let's check out how to add items in a basic manner to your reality. Items can be added to your FreshAiR reality by clicking on the Items tab at the top of your screen. Now, items are an abstract concept, and they could be anything you'd like that pertains to your FreshAiR narrative. Items can be representations of actual tangible digital items that the user collects, whether they be tokens or goods, or if you have some sort of fantasy narrative, gold, swords, what have you. Since items are abstract and up to you to define, you can also make items actually be achievements, or badges, or any number of types of things. Let's add a few items to this reality and see how it works. To create an item for your FreshAiR reality, click Add Another Item. You'll see a box pop up that you can hover over and click Edit on. You'll want to populate each item with a title, an image by clicking on the image thumbnail here. Notice when I do so, it takes me to the image media screen, and I could select image media I've already previously populated or create an image on the fly. I selected the desired image by hovering over it and clicking select on it. At that point, I'll be returned to the item screen. Next, each item needs a short description. Type this in and hit done. In this case, I want items to represent achievements. I'm creating a scenario where the user will go to each of these different locations in turn, and when they do get there, they'll receive an item for their efforts. In previous tutorials, I've shown you how to use actions to set up the visibility and accessibility of each location trigger. Now, I'll want to make corresponding items for each of these location triggers, and in my case, items are going to be achievements that the user unlocks by triggering the content at each of these location triggers. So let's populate some items now. Okay, I've taken a few minutes to fill out 3 more items for this reality. Now that I have these items, I'll hit save, and I'll go to my triggers to start making actions for these items to give these items to the user at certain key places. In this reality, I want the user to receive an item at each of these locations once they visit them. To do so, I'll add an action to each of these location triggers that gives the user an item. You do this by clicking the Add Action button and picking the Item subcategory. You'll notice the same sentence structure that we discovered in previous actions that we set in previous tutorials. Set the player's number of, select an item, to, and then there's a number here. Much like the visibility and accessibility action for triggers, the set action for items can actually be clicked on to toggle through a couple of different types of actions: set, take, or give items to the player. For now, let's use set. Clicking on the Select an Item drop-down here next in the sentence will actually show you any items that already exist that you've populated in the Items tab. In this case, for the Matches screen, I want the achievement to be unlocked to be a Fire Builder badge. Remember, in this context, I'm using items to represent and abstractly mean achievements. So, set the player's number of Achievement Unlocked Fire Builder badge to 1. Here, you could set the number to whatever you'd like for this type of item for the user. And it's important to note, in this context, set is more of an absolute term. It doesn't matter if the user already has this item or not in their inventory. Regardless of whatever quantity they had or did not have of this item, setting it to a certain number will indeed set it to that number. This is as opposed to giving or taking away a number of items from the user, which is more relative of a term. For instance, let's say I had an item that was a gold coin, And let's say the user already had 10 gold coins in their inventory, because I've given them that already. If I was to set the player's number of gold coins to, say, 5, it wouldn't matter whether the user had 5, 10, 20, or 0 gold coins previously. This action would make it so the user's gold coins were set to 5 no matter what. However, if the user was at 10 gold coins previously, and I said to give the player 5, this would add on to what they already have for that item, and they would actually end up with 15 gold coins. Same thing for take. If the user had 10 gold coins and I took away 5, obviously there would only be 5 coins left. It's a subtle but important distinction here. In this case, we're not dealing with gold coins, we're dealing with achievements. And it really only makes sense to either have the achievement or not have the achievement. So I'm setting the player's number of achievements, the Fire Builder badge in this case, to 1. Be sure to hit the green circle when you're done. Great. I'll want to hit save here. To summarize very quickly, remember, this green line determines the flow of how the user's presented content and actions when they get to a certain trigger, going from top to bottom. So the matches content here will be triggered by this location, the matches location, by this criteria you've set that we've talked about in previous tutorials. They'll see this content first. I'm following this green line down. Then, instantaneously to the user, as soon as they've seen this content, these actions will trigger in this order. We'll set the visibility accessibility of this matches trigger to not visible and not accessible to the player so that they actually won't be able to go here again. We'll set the next trigger we want them to see, the rifles and shells trigger. We'll set that visibility and accessibility to visible and accessible because we're making a linear path here from matches to rifles and shells. And lastly, we'll set the player's number of achievement unlocked Fire Builder badge to 1 so that they earn the Fire Builder badge achievement item. To the user, this will all be seamless. They'll simply walk or click on this matches location, see the content, and then their inventory will be set without any prompts as soon as they hit done on the matches location trigger. At that point, if they were to look at their inventory view, they would see that the achievement unlocked for Fire Builder badge would be there. You'll want to keep this in mind for items. You'll want to make some sort of content that indicates to the user when they've received a certain item or a certain item's been taken away or what have you. I've done that here. The content they see at this matches location says Achievement Unlocked, Fire Builder badge. You can view this in your inventory by clicking on the menu bar below. Take a minute to rest by the fire and catch your breath. When you're ready for the next mission, click Done to continue. This is a strong narrative prompt to let the user know what's happening in their FreshAiR reality and to give them bearings on what's going to happen next. I want to set similar actions for these other location triggers to make sure that the user receives the achievements for each of these as well. Great. Now's a great time to save your reality and test out some of the functionality you've learned on this tutorial.